Alrighty, sir, you are live. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sierra. Welcome, Douglas County. My name is Kelly Robinson. I'm the Commissioner of the 2nd District, and I also serve as Vice Chairman of the Board of Commissioners. This is the May 17, 2022 Board of Commissioners Transportation Committee. I also serve as Chair of the committee. We've got a pretty full agenda today, so we're going to try to keep this as tight as we normally do. We're going to go around the room to establish quorum before we move into our first administrative business. So I'll start with myself to announce who I am. Kelly Robinson, Chair of the committee.
Thomas Batson Jones, Vice Chairman of the committee.
Secretary, Deputy County Administrator.
Mr. Stanley, Assistant County Administrator.
Miguel Valentin, Transportation Director.
Great, we have a full quorum here, and it is we're set to go for business. Now, County, how do we want to handle this, Director Valentin? I want to go ahead, let's do with the meeting minutes first, but I want to bring up the hierarchy, the committee structure as a higher order. I want the transit director to be at the table today, not at the end. So let's go ahead and take care of meeting minutes to which he was not part of per se, and then we'll come back to that next line item. Are you okay with that?
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay.
The minutes of April 19th, 2022 meeting have been distributed, and if everybody's had an opportunity to review them, and there are no edits or clarifications from the floor, they're ready for adoption.
Right. What's the date again, Director Valentin?
April 19th, 2022.
All right. Can I get a motion to adopt the meeting minutes of April 18th, 2022 for the Transportation Committee?
So moved.
We got a motion by Madam Chair and a second by Madam ACA. Any further discussion?
A point of order, the date is April 19th.
Oh, I said April. As amended to my statement, April 19th, 2022. So we'll redo it all over again. Can I get a motion to adopt or amended date of April 19th, 2022 for adoption of the Transportation Committee meeting minutes?
So moved. Second.
I got a motion and a second. Thank you, Director Valentin. Any more discussion? All right, so I'm just going to go around the room to establish the adoption of this through a yay or nay vote or abstain if one wasn't there. Kelly Robinson, yes.
Ramona Batson Jones, yes.
Secretary, yes.
Mr. Stanley, yes.
Miguel Valentin, yes.
All right, we got a 5-vote for the adoption of the meeting minutes from April 19th, 2022. Thank you, Director Valentin. Let's move to the next order of business. If everybody's comfortable with us modifying the agenda to adopt us moving that ahead to talk about seats on our committee. There's no nays, we just keep moving. All right, Miguel, go ahead and bring forth your topic.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. The committee, as it's now constituted, typically is a 5-member committee, and it is now constituted. It has the deputy county administrator voting as a voting member in the stead of the county administrator. He has the assistant county administrator also as a voting member, and typically there was a member from the transit services division as a voting member, and now that we have hired or promoted and have a new director of transit services, it would be a good discussion to have as to whether we need to consider amending the membership to not only introduce potentially the addition of the new transit services director, but whether all the existing members would stay or whether we would rotate some of them out. I'll stop there and leave it open for discussion.
All right, well, I appreciate that. And again, we may not be able to sell it right now, but I know this past year, the Board of Commissioners as a whole passed legislation that dealt with committee structure. specifically the powers of the chair, specifically how we're organized, whether it's select or whether it's standing, how long terms would last, etc., etc. One of the things that we did not address, obviously, is non-elected participants. We did not put, I think we kept with the odd versus it could be anywhere from 5 to 11 members, but don't hold me to that in this just a second. But I know there was something doing with formation. Madam Chair, what do you think? I mean, it should be odd. We don't want to ever get to a point where it's even, unless you have, which I have no problem with, you can leave it, somebody becomes a non-voting member. But what are your thoughts? 5 is always good. Yep. All vote, majority rules. You put 6 members, now you get into splits. You just get to
Right, I believe the odd is the tradition, particularly if you want to secure a solid vote. 7 is reasonable, to 11 becomes, to me, a circus. It's just too many people. There. So maybe 5 to 7 would be a nice sweet spot for us.
it was. We did, all right, so let's just entertain the existing 5 plus 1, which is transit, which has always been there. So it's not like we're trying to accommodate it. We just didn't have anybody in that hole. That by default was part of the membership. We just happen to have 2 administrators that is taking up the seats. So I'm fine with that. Their contribution is very, very important. So, Madam Chair, I guess I would, without extending the conversation, maybe add another person to get us up to 7. And so I would like for you guys to come back and you tell me who else should be part of this team, which is, I'm pretty open. I'm pretty open. So, I mean, obviously, external affairs is important that Madam HT is here because of the Connect Douglas. It's important that the deputy is here, obviously, because he's got to align all the resources accordingly. Of course, you and I, Madam Chair, by default, and of course, one the head of transportation. Do we add Heath?
Yeah.
That is a very, very good option for us. I would have to say yes to that. You know, I yield to Miguel because he's the subject matter expert here, but I would be in strong favor of adding Heath to the team. Yeah, and I would second that. I think that it would be reasonable in that there are a number of items that come before the committee that were previously within DOT but are now under public works, so it would be appropriate. I didn't see you there, man. I was going to text you and tell you when you're not in on a meeting, you get nominated.
Oh, I'm always here.
Good to see you, man.
All right, with that being said, let's just go ahead and we can take action. We're empowered and have the authority to do so. So Miguel passed a resolution that we will amend now our existing charter to exist of 7 members and articulate the roles in which those 7 members are. And then after that, then we will appoint the 2 new members by name.
Okay. Then I'd make a motion that the committee adopt a membership of 7 voting members, go from 5 to 7, effective immediately.
Effective meeting, which will be a representation from where?
As we've discussed, the additional 2 members, one will be from transit services and the other one from public works.
Joining the membership from transportation. Got it. All right.
Sure.
All right. So we have a motion, and I know this is being recorded. We've got meeting minutes, so we've got a motion to modify the current structure of our transportation committee from a 5 to 7 members, with 2 additional members coming from public works and transit areas. Can I get a second?
Do second that, Vice Chair.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion, anyone? And Madam Chair, I want you to say something for the record that you have peace with this.
Oh, I have peace. Yes.
Okay, whenever we do reorganization, we want to make sure at least the electors weigh in. So thank you for that. Any other discussion? All right, no further discussion. We're going to go on existing membership to the 5 5 members to now expand to 7, and then we'll come back and put the numbers on there and go to 7. All right, Kelly Robinson, vote yes.
Mona Jackson Jones, yes.
Herbert Perry, yes.
Tiffany Search Stanley, yes.
Joe Valentin, yes.
We got a 5 unanimous vote to now the Transportation Committee of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners has been modified to be a 7-member committee. And now, the second part of this, Miguel, can you put forth the 2 names to be added to the committee effective immediately?
Yes, I make a motion that we add as voting members Steve Coward from Public Works and Ron Roberts from Transit Services.
You've heard the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, we got a motion. Who did the second?
Deputy County Administrator.
I just want to make sure. I got you. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion for this membership addition? Effective immediately. If none, I'll go around the room to call it. But still remaining 5 members when we get the vote hereafter. It'll be the new structure. So with this being said, I vote yes to add the 2 members.
Mona Jackson Jones, yes.
Herbert Perry, yes.
Tiffany Search Stanley, yes.
Joe Valentin, yes.
5 unanimous vote to add Ron Roberts, Director of Transit, and Keith Coward, Director of Public Works, to the Transportation Committee. Welcome aboard, gentlemen. All right, so now we got 7 members. You guys all, our support personnel, such as David Good, is out there, and some of the other vendors that we'll hear from later. So thank you guys for allowing us to get to this matter. It was important as we get to the busy stuff that the people have us doing. So Director Valentin, let's go ahead and jump into this agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. The first item on the agenda is a presentation from the Transit Services area, the Collaborative Fund, and Ms. Danielle Scherzover. If you would power up your presentation. Are you able to share, Danielle?
Yes, sir, I am now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I'll just go through a brief presentation. What we've been accomplishing from quarter 1 to date. So what I want to first bring to your attention is fixed bus ridership from 2019 to 2021. We did a deep dive of ridership numbers and compared them to not only our outreach efforts, but what was going on at the time. What I want to draw your attention to is the red line in particular. That is 2019. So in December of 2019 through January of 2020, there were free rides, and I'm sure you can recall within the marketplace around the holiday season. And that was an opportunity to not only gain ridership, but it gave momentum going into 2020. So that teal or light blue line is 2020 travel, ridership numbers. So the momentum from free rides carried us into January, February of 2020. And, to much of many of our surprises, COVID hit. And with COVID, 73% of transit services across the country went down. So it was a wonderful additive that we had some momentum going into 2021 because January, February, March, as you know, COVID hit, and then hence the decline across the country. Next slide. What is good to note post-COVID is we're on an upswing. Fixed bus ridership is outpacing this time a year ago. So what you see here is January to April 2020 to 2021. And that is a wonderful thing to note is, again, we're outpacing this time last year. Fixed bus ridership, for those who are listening in the public, we do have 10 routes all throughout Douglas County. Route 10, 20, 30, and 40 are currently still available to riders. As you know, the fixed bus routes are only in existence for not only 3 years, and this summer is our 3 year anniversary. So it's still, as many would say, in the infancy or toddler stage, and many of that time was during COVID. And quite frankly, it doesn't go all the way throughout every single part of the county. What can we do about that? As ridership increases and the demand increases, then we can expand the reach. However, we're not going to wait on that. We're going to expand the reach and do well right where we are and expand the visibility now that we're getting over the hump of the pandemic as far as transit services is considered overall. Here are some opportunities that we are looking into. Water bill inserts that expands the visibility of Connect Douglas and Connect Douglas Fixed Bus Route in particular. Partnership opportunities to reinvigorate those, especially with our neighbors over at Cobb Link. At the Route 40 at the epicenter, that's where the two systems meet, right near Six Flags. So the opportunities to have that partnership increase. And FYI, many know that there is a free transfer from Connect Douglas Fixed Bus Route to Cobb Link. Another opportunity is what currently we're deeming Destination Saturdays. Opportunity for transit services into downtown Villa Rica, which have several different events, especially during the summer at the amphitheater, Cumberland Mall, for example, and even the Battery. Other opportunities. The landscape of the workplace has drastically changed for many, of course, including those in Douglas County. So other benefit opportunities is fixed bus routes with employees, targeting those mid to large companies, and revisiting those conversations that we've had alongside Elevate Douglas with those mid to large size companies in the county, especially along that Route 30 corridor. And here are some to, for example, like the Amazons of the world, Six Flags, again, that Route 40 connection with Cobb Link, Harbor Place Mall, Amazon, and Medline. Engagement. We want to enhance those travel training sessions, and thank you to those who participated in the Golden Years Club meeting. That was one set example that groups and organizations we want to work with and are working with. We want to not only congratulate the board for the proclamation of Older Americans Month. So in celebration of that, proposing free rides on the fixed bus route for those seniors 60 and older in Mobility Challenge, beginning as early as May throughout June, so a month, in honor of celebration of Older Americans Month. And of course, expanding those travel training sessions, targeting in particular older and active citizens within Douglas County, and the locations being Lithia Springs Senior Center and Dog River Park. We want to give note that Taste of Douglasville is upcoming, and we would love for you all to stop by the Connect Douglas table. There will be a bus located there for a cooling station, and then again this year will be free event shuttle, leaving from the Multimodal Transportation Center there at 8800 Doris Road and going to the event. And if you can see on the map, there are two pick up and drop off locations. We intend for it to be even larger this year, going back to downtown Douglasville. So that again, free event shuttle. You may have seen the press release went out yesterday on the website and social media. And then participating in the upcoming Juneteenth celebration, and a TBD or to be announced date in June for a webinar for those who may not be able to attend the in-person how to or travel training. There will be a webinar scheduled as well. I did go over that very quickly, but I wanted to thank you for your time, and I'm opening up to any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, to the committee, any questions, any member? Madam Chair, are you okay? Again, it's progress. This is supposed to be a progress check on where we are with our system and the efforts to engage the committee accordingly. know you have some, obviously like with Juneteenth and some other important projects that there'll be alignment and ensuring that when guys, you got, people are here, make sure you're connecting with that. And so I'm hoping that there's somebody who's synchronizing your initiatives, Madam Chair, with all of this. One thing is I do want to that point, I want to emphasize regionalism is still important. And so I appreciate the acknowledgement of our partners over Cobb Link, right? This is not just the transaction alone. We're part of a bigger system. And having conversations with them, not just for the connection of the actual route, but also what their plans are in alignment is important as we move forward. So again, whether it's to mimic or to learn or to share or to leverage, I think it's important to keep conversations going with our partners, not just there, but also to the west and also to the south, across in Fulton, back in Carroll, or over in Paulding. We're boxed by 4 partners. So Cobb and Fulton obviously a little bit different than Carroll and Paulding, but there's still mobility and a need to move our people from one place to the other. Though most things do ride east, it still there's a way to go back and a way to sort of maximize our routes. We also recognize that at some point that we will, maybe it's not on this agenda right now, but we do have a Transit 2.0 that says, okay, well, what should be our plans to our formal administrative plans, not the consultant that's advancing and communicating and engaging the public on our current efforts. It's the administrative actions. Okay, now what are we going to do? And what's the next plans? And how do we now take care of those areas that weren't served before, which now they have an interest in, and to perfect the routes that we currently have. So I think this was just a status, Madam Chair. We don't have to belabor it right now unless they have questions, because we got a lot of things we need to get into the agenda. But any thoughts, Madam Chair?
Yeah, I believe it's just by looking at the information that's been provided. Daniel, thank you so much for trending, number one, and then looking at what potentially can happen as the summer months approach us, such as the places that you listed, such as Six Flags, Arbor Place Mall. It'll be interesting to see if you're going to have a huge spike for the summer because of the children being out of school. So I know you're tracking it very closely. And then I know I do echo the words of the Vice Chair that connectivity is important. And I believe hopefully as we continue the next couple of months, we will look at another opportunity with Cobb Link going on that on the eastern wall on the Thornton Road area. So that's something that I know we will be just discussing. And no, I don't want to steal thunder by Vice Chair, but that was something that we'd love to see what that will do to our ridership, to see if it would increase even more. So thank you for being strategic and intentional about where that the ridership could be increased. Daniel, I appreciate you. So thank you. Thank you. You're back to the Vice Chair.
We'll keep this going because I want to get everybody else waiting. But Director Roberts, make this note as your first administrative to take down. Is Maximum Road was considered. It's okay to have the conversation as perhaps a potential area in which we can extend our system over into Cobb further. So this Thornton Maximum. So there has been, at least at the elected level conversation that we thought that may be based on citizen feedback. But again, you got to work through with your counterpart across the river.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll leave it in your hands. All right, Miguel, if no further questions, let's just keep going because we got some other presentations. Thank you, Danielle. You always do a great job. So succinct. Thank you so much. And your data is all there. So we got what we needed. The public, if they need more information, we'll provide it. But thank you so much for your contribution to today's meeting.
Yes, Commissioner. Next on the agenda would be a presentation from Mr. Todd Wong of One Atlas. I understand that he's presented this before to some of the attendees at a conference, and Commissioner, I believe you had an opportunity to either view some of it or discuss it, but nonetheless, he does have a presentation regarding the TSPOS process, and he is currently over at GDOT in a meeting. He stepped away so he would be able to join us. So I will have to drive the presentation, and Todd,
Okay.
I'm gonna try and
Well, I've got it. If you,
oh, you have it? Okay,
yeah,
fine.
I can share. So, can you see it?
Yes, I certainly can.
Okay. So I've edited it a little bit for brevity. And but Miguel, thank you so much for allowing me to speak a little bit. I did see Mr. Robinson last Thursday, and we talked a little bit about it. But one of the things I want to just talk about quickly is T-Splosh, and as you guys are considering your options later on, I think you need to understand some of the details. And I did make the same presentation, Chairwoman. You were there, I guess, a couple of Saturdays ago,
Yes.
and saw some of these slides along with a whole day's worth of slides, right? So this is just going to be a snapshot. But of your local funding options, there's a bunch of them. But today, I'm just going to just quickly dive into the single county T-Splosh and what it means and what it could do for the county. And I know you've talked about it before, but I'm going to just remind you of some of the ins and outs and the details associated with it, because it is very important to understand the details as you move forward. The ACCG probably has one of the best resources available on their webpage. They've got a Q&A document on basically T-Splosh and a history and answers questions and answers. And in fact, Kathleen Bowen at ACCG, and she and I helped put those questions together many years back when I was with Fulton County. But there are 4 regions now that have a regional sales tax, but a bunch more counties have a single T-Splosh. And I'll show you a map here a little bit later. The first one ever approved was in Fulton County. That was the one I was intensely involved in back in November of 16, implemented in 17. But quickly, it's just like for those who don't know, a single county T-Splosh is almost exactly like a splosh, except how you use the money. And then another factor, it can be fractional in nature. Splosh is not allowed by law to be fractional. It's a penny or bust. And that's the reason behind that. It's they wanted these smaller rural counties, they didn't want them to have the option of going less than a penny, because less than a penny doesn't raise much money. But in T-Splosh, they do allow increments all the way up to a full penny. And in fact, Fulton County is a good example. They're 0.75 for the area outside of Atlanta. And in Atlanta, T-Splosh is 0.4 cents per dollar. So, but if you're going to do a T-Splosh, you've got to make sure that the cities and counties work together and form an intergovernmental agreement. Probably the most important thing you can do is be on the same page. Not really because you have to, even though that's the law, it says you have to, or you have to get bumped down to a lower level. But if you're not in line and the cities and the county are fighting about doing it, ultimately it's not going to pass through voters. So we found that most counties that have a successful vote usually end up with both the cities and counties working together hand in hand. But if you don't have an IGA, you can still do it. You can ramrod it through, and then the distribution amounts to the cities is not decided. It's not decided on by the elected officials. It's decided on by an audit of the last 3 fiscal years, which is can be very. Start digging into those numbers. It can be very conflicting and confusing, and you may end up giving some cities a lot more than they deserve, and some places a lot less than they deserve. So every T-Splosh to date has an IGA in place, just so you know. So don't try it without it. How can funds be spent? I'll quickly just say that it's very wide open. Roads, bridges, transit, rail, airports, buses, seaports. We just saw a presentation on transit. Certainly you can spend this money on transit. It is a 5-year tax though. It's not a long-term tax. And the T-Splosh legislation refers back to others code section 48-8-121, which lays out even more details. Everything from right-of-way under A, right-of-way for acquisition of streets, to renovation of roads, relocation of utilities, improvements of drainage along roadways, patching, milling, stormwater capital outlays associated with projects, road projects. And then the most controversial sentence ever written in T-Splosh legislation probably has been the one I'm going to put up on this next page. And then it goes on to say, and all accompanying infrastructure and services necessary to support those transportation facilities. So that has now been interpreted by lawyers and others that the use of T-Splosh money can be spent for buying a motor grader or buying there's some sort of operational material taking care of the infrastructure. As all of you know, SPLOST funds are purely capital. It's really spelled out very clearly in the law. But that allows this to be subject to, basically allowing, in rural Georgia, this is a big deal. So they've used the allocation of those funds for, let me go back here, for, basically grading roads. And you don't have that problem necessarily in Douglas County, but it does allow you for some for operation services. And people have taken that to a long, lengthy debate about how far it goes out. I mean, in other words, could your public works facility be paid for by T-SPLOST funds? That's been, somebody has asked that question. So you have to, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one at work.
Did we lose him?
Seems like he's frozen.
Yeah. Miguel?
Todd, can you hear us? We cannot hear you at this time. Commissioner, I can pull up the presentation where he was, and
Absolutely. Again, this is for education for us as a committee. We have new members, so I think this is perfectly timed based on considerations that will be coming before the board over the next couple months. And so we appreciate his willingness to sort of just be an advisor to us. So again, he is an instructor down at ACCG, which me and I'm sure went to last week or a couple weeks ago, the full board did for training. So we appreciate the time. And again, we're sensitive to time. So if we can get him back on now, or we're going to have to pause and keep moving because we can't go long because, we got our voting member meeting right after this. So, Miguel, is he back?
no, I do not see him back yet.
We'll thank him for that. We have to stay on task. So he can come back in later as an insertion point. You guys reach back out to him and see if y'all can find him, somebody. But in the meantime, Miguel, let's go forward with the next order of business of the public. We'll come back to this. We'll just make a pin on it.
Okay, we'll do. Okay, the next item on the agenda is from Public Works. Actually, we have received a number of bids for materials and services, and now that we have Mr. Coward as a voting member, he can provide some input. But essentially, the first item for discussion is the resurfacing bids for 2022 have come in. Unfortunately, they came in way higher than the estimate. And to give you a little background, the SPLOST allocation for this contract was combined with the usual $3 million per year allocation. And we actually, as part of the reforecast, moved some or advanced some funds from 2023. We also had a capital fund allocation of $150,000 related to a particular road in District 4. So overall, we had a budget of about $6.8 million available. The estimate was closer to 6.1, between 6.1 and 6.5, but we had a budget of 6.8. But that is not anywhere near what we need. We are the lowest bid. There were 4 bids that came in. The lowest bid was almost 9.9 million. So that leaves us at $2.6 million in deficit to be able to do the entire list of roads. We had about 25 miles on the list. The bids, the lowest, as I mentioned, was close to 9.9. The others were closer to 12 million. So the price of asphalt has gone through the roof. Contractors from anecdotal evidence is that they are loaded with work, and so they do not need as much work as they did previously. and some of them are essentially bidding on these projects. If they get them, they get them. If not, they have plenty of work going anyway. So they're essentially kind of not giving us the most competitive price that we would have expected. But that's where we are. The bid again, 25 miles or so, and it came in at 9.9. So we have a deficit of 2.6 million. As I mentioned, we've made the entire allocation for SPLOST that remained was allocated to this project. So we would have to have a discussion about do we need to reduce the number of miles that are resurfaced, or is there another fund, another source for the funding? And I'll stop there and open it up to questions, and perhaps Keith might have some additional input as well.
Before we open up to Keith, again, welcome to the community seated. So we'll let you weigh in before we open a broader discussion amongst the committee. Anything else you want to add on this one?
Yeah, I just want to say, we went over the results coming in were, the cheapest bidder was higher by, a good bit, but all of it, I think, what Miguel, was able to tell you in this briefing was, that's the bottom line. It's the cost of the material, the cost of asphalt. The top mix alone is triple in the last year. So that's where we're at and why these prices are so much higher, and the work demand, across the different bids, whatever the job is, everybody's just stacked up. They've got work, and so nobody's really putting it out there there's not a big rush for people trying to get the work. So we have limited bids, we have increased price, and it doesn't match with the agenda, our budget, because of the big difference from last year to this year. So we have a challenge ahead of us.
Thank you for that. So to the committee, let's to the points, we recognize this has happened in times past, and where costs come in greater. I think this was last administration. We were over budget by $4 million. Chair, you learned about that, and so you either got two options: you add cash or you cut. We added cash last time out of the general fund. Right? $4 million out of this. $5 million for animal shelter. This was pure cash, one time. So we've been here before. Either you cut the list or you add cash. To Miguel's point, you can't extend forward because we've done that already. Reach forward to 2023. That, no money. Right? So our growth is about to slow down. Our efforts are slowing down, I'm sure, by default. Much as we desire, you can't throttle it. You can't force it. You can pay a premium for it, but with that, where are you going to pull it from? So Miguel, talk to us about the first option, which is to reduce the list. Now, obviously, that's a board decision. Meaning that, okay, guys, all 4 districts about to get squeezed. And so what would you suggest? What are we cutting it by? 25 is what, divided by 4, 6 miles each, give or take. So all of us got to give up a mile?
It's actually going to be closer to 7 miles that we would have to reduce it by. And it would be 1 2/3 miles per district. Now, there's another component to this in that when you have a bid, you're usually allowed to deviate from the quantity by up to 20% without triggering a potential repricing by the contractor. So the deficit is actually higher than that. We would have to reduce it by 36% in order to get within budget. And if we do that, we would have to legally give the option to the contractor to reprice his unit pricing, because again, he could either say, no, I'm not going to do it I'm not going to take the reduction beyond 25% or 20%, or they could say, well, yeah, we'll work with that, but then it's going to be, this unit price. And so it would be potentially a trigger for them withdrawing the bid. So something for consideration. But to your point, Commissioner, to get us within budget, we would be looking at approximately 6.75 mile reduction, and we would have to be strategic about what roads we would remove from each district, because we're looking at dollars here, and so we would be looking at potentially some of the more expensive roads to remove first, so as to not remove as many different roads. But that could be a part of the discussion. That could be a commission determination as to whether you remove some of the collector roads from the mix to minimize how many roads you eliminate, or you come up to a dollar amount some other way.
One of the things to the committee is that, and just as a reminder for our new members, Madam Chair, you're aware that for District 2, as the existing sitting commissioner, we submitted a list of just strictly subdivisions being resurfaced. So this is for Director Cowher. In other words, like, no, we've done enough collector roads and arterial roads, and this is back to why we're having a T-SPOS conversation. What about the subdivisions? So I had 3 communities that were on my list for District 2 only, that this year's round would just resurface those subdivisions that have been here for 30 years. All right, so then that means, in my case, my conversation is less about that. Okay, so which community has to wait till next year or some other funding? So I have no problems with this, me weighing in just as a commissioner saying, all right, I get it. So out of 3 communities, one of them got a pause. God, and the same thing that everybody else has to do on their area. So mine is less, just to even we talk about this. But Madam Chair, your other option, of course, is to use existing cash. Again, that's a board decision, like, okay. Or a 4th option is do nothing and wait. Right? Wait. Just pause. That's always an option. Now I get the system moves, I get it, but it's not that that they say all options should be on the table. Like, guys, what if we paused and let's do less, pause, put up cash. Those are the only 3 options you have. Or call the list. Now I do recognize the vendor. Now I'm going to limit my conversations here. That says, well, no, we get that. We're going through that right now with our medical and our inmates. We don't feel pressure like that. Like, well, what you got to do. But please, we won't be held hostage to it either. I think that's important. That the cost associated, like, no, we get it. So we have to, in our own minds, like, okay, be at peace. Like, okay, guys, they may come back. Say, look, I've got enough cash in the system. I got enough bids. I got enough. Like, I'm good. Like, okay. But we don't have to sell our soul. To your point, Miguel, you were alluding to just like, look, because again, it's like, oh. All right, I'm gonna pause there. Anybody want to weigh in? Direct, Madam Chair, help.
I'll just weigh in quickly. Certainly, Director, I know this inflation is putting pressure on all of us from all angles, and certainly if we react to everything that regarding this inflationary period, we may run out of cash. I know we have cash now, but we need to save our reserves for other things that may come down the pipe that's an emergency. I was trying to look as you all were speaking. I was looking at the ARPA list, see if there was an opportunity we could make some adjustments, but I see it's none, in terms of transportation. I just think we're just going to have to adjust accordingly to the situation. Same thing in households. People are saying, okay, I just can't buy that. I got to hold it. So I just would like to see us be more strategic and intentional right now, because of we don't know what's coming down the pipe in the future. So I really don't have a whole lot of ideas, except I tried to look at ARPA. Tiffany, certainly is there an opportunity for some funding? How short How much funding, additional funding do you need, Miguel?
2.6 million.
Oh, jeez, okay. Tiffany, I know your response is no. You have the floor, Tiff.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I think we would have to look at the priorities that have been set and see, there have been one thing that's been funded through the state, so we may be able to look at that if the board sees fit. But we can definitely take a look at it and see what options we would have as far as making adjustments with the approval from the board.
Chairman of the Transportation Committee, as our ACA just mentioned, she said, it sounds like we got a little relief on a project that may give us some room in the ARPA. Is that something you may want to consider, Chairman of the committee, as an option as well, since we've had some relief on a couple of items or one item in this ARPA funding?
Yeah, if you allow me, Madam Chair, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know when you're representing the interests of citizens, their priorities were, what about us? It's where's my tax dollars? And I get the need to resurface their subdivisions versus keep constantly doing the main streets. And so I got it. And I'm okay with having a conversation with saying, no, we're about to call this back. Because here's my issue as I listen, like, God, y'all, we had a SPLOST that ran 5-6 years. 50% was transportation. Now, this is showing us the point that there's a need. We got a CTP that we just finished, $773 million, our contribution. And we're just at an inflection point. We did a 5-year great run. So I'm okay with our progress and everything that's been done. You guys have done an excellent job. But it's just like, yeah, but I can't put everything into transportation. Or I put everything into the public sector. No, you got to balance this. Right, so this drives on the point like, okay, yeah, I got to cut subdivision. Well, I guess y'all need to support additional funding mechanism, which is obviously our SPLOST. That's how you do these big things. So you got to slow down. But if you start taking out your general fund, the fund stuff that's your general fund. That's your daily operation now. That's your checking, and you about to do it. Like, no, we're going in reverse. So I don't think I would support on an open floor us like going into like, no, guys. No, it's been well taken care of. We have fair transportation as well as we can feed it. Now to keep extending it, now I know what our desires are. My whole point, like, was subdivisions, communities, what's it going to cost? We can get at it. It's $150 million just for subdivisions alone. Miguel would say 200, but okay, definitely 200 now, Miguel. Definitely.
Yes.
All right, so we got to pay for. So we're at a good. It's not a negative place. You only can do so much, Madam Chair, and I think we've got to downshift. To just get through the rest of this year and see where things go. So there's just, you got to downshift this. You got to downshift, so that means we got to cut. You said a third, 1 1/3 for each. Got it. I got to get rid of one of my communities. That's my issue. It needs the board members need to weigh in, Madam Chair. And I think we bring this up, but you don't force this. Don't rob. Don't take from some other area to sort of force this, because you've adequately funded this. We've done well. I get it, Miguel. You already pulled from the future. You can't go nowhere. Now you get upside down. You've already pulled from the future. We can't even do nothing next year. It's all in this year. So it's like, this is it. So I say, just let it be what it be, and show the public our efforts and our responsibilities and how we deliver it. And if we get a chance to sort of do this again, great. And if we don't, well, back to LMIG. That's where we're at, guys. Anything else in your general fund, that's between me and you. I wouldn't do it, Madam Chair. I would hold off. That's me as a fellow peer. To the committee, I say that we go back to the full board with a report. Miguel, as administrative concurrence, let them know we need to cut this. We got this contractor out here, but we need to try to cut the list, and we recognize there's a process they have to rebid. That's fine. Let them reproject. That's fine. But no, Madam Chair, I can't support us taking what you finally got to a place where you're stable. And you put a lot of money into transportation, but to go to get out the general fund to sort of put in this hole because of the current market condition, it ain't no back down. Slow down. Don't feel so you got to prove this. This is the lessons we learned last time. We said they put that $4 million when they blew the budget. They said, well, we're gonna go ahead, and we didn't have the same type of macro. The guys just came in with higher bids and stuff, so we went ahead and spotted $4 million out of the general fund, it's like, okay, but what was the, that was it. And I said, no, I can't support that type of action, Madam Chair. Because then now you ain't got no more cash. You got to raise millage rate because you taking your cash, your reserves, you're going against your own policy if we do this. I mean, it puts you in a place where having to go against it. Not that it would. You hear me? I ain't got
Yeah, I heard you loud and clear. The general fund was never an option in my discussion. I just said ARPA. That's it.
I understand.
Yeah, the ARPA is the firewall. If nothing else, that's it. Because I agree with you. We cannot afford to raise the millage rate, and we all are experiencing an inflation, and the prices are up everywhere. So I'm quite sure our citizens will certainly sympathize with us as we continue to make some adjustments during this pandemic. But the general fund, we need to stay. That's our safety net, our fund balance in the event of a catastrophic emergency. And this pandemic is one, and this pandemic is still in progress. So we don't want to take our eye off the pandemic and whatever is coming behind it. So I agree with you, Vice Chair.
All right, so then there's really no action to be taken here because again, we can't authorize anything to the full board to say that we're going to go ahead and fund the current topic. So Miguel, I think what it's administrative concurrence for you to go to the full board and say, hey guys, here's our current situation, and we need you to weigh in to cull your list down to whatever the magic number is. That's all we can do right now. There's no action to be taken. I can't support us pulling money from somewhere else to force this. So I think the first action is to brief the board, let them know. Now they may come back and say, through 3 votes, do it this way. You know how it works, but at the minimum, you got to advise them on where we are, that we need them to help us cull this list, and that's all we've got right now. So, Madam Chair, I mean, anybody else want to weigh in? I'd say just administrative concurrence, go to the board, because again, you don't have the money right now. You can't pull it from the future. And you still got to go to the board, even if you want to take any other action to modify that. So again, we're taking money from the ARPA, but those are already set priorities as well. So we're robbing stuff that we got once in 100 years. We take from your checking account for something that is our normal operating. Like, okay, yes, we have normal maintenance. But once in 100 years, now why am I going to take money from that to do normal operation of resurfacing? I don't know about that. I'm sure you finally got your check account balance. Like, I don't know about that.
I believe our ACA indicated that one item has been freed up on this ARPA list that just was funded by the state, and it freed up some dollars. I'm not sure what the value of that dollar is. ACA, do you have an idea if it's worthy of even discussing? You're still on mute.
Yeah, I can hear you. What was your question? I apologize.
Remember, you said something had been freed up on the ARPA list, and this has been funded. It hasn't been funded by the state, so they yielded a little room for us. What's the value? Is it worthy of?
It's the water and sewer project of $750,000. We were awarded a grant by the state for that, but we also had allocated some funding in the ARPA list for that as well. So if we go back and take a look at it and realize, see we don't need the funding, we may be able to use that if that's the board's will.
Yeah.
All right, to that point, thank you. But why wouldn't we just, like any other project, keep it in the water sewer area? So you're getting into like, no, don't. I mean, okay, so you got some reimbursement, but what that was the commitment by the.
Okay.
You go through this. It's like, okay, you put unnecessary pressure. It's just, everybody just slow down. You got to spend less. I mean, we're saying one thing, but then our actions that we're trying to take is going against the very thing we're saying here.
Makes sense.
Yeah, let the board, so Director Valentine, do you get the instruction? We're asking, as administrative concurrence, go to the board, let them know where we are, and solicit their input on calling that list. And then we can have a conversation to come to the board on what actions go, but you can't get ahead of them. And I don't want to make a recommendation on something like this, not without their input.
Yes, I understand. I understand, Commissioner. The question would be, Madam Chair, whether we have a meeting tonight, but whether this could be put on the next agenda for the first meeting in June, or
Okay, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We'll pull it tonight. We'll pause it. We'll table it. I mean, that's fine. We'll just table it, Madam Chair, the next. You can brief on what happened, that we need input, and we'll wait till we come back at that next meeting. Do it that way. Okay. Send out the email to them to call the list, and then we'll come back at the next meeting. We'll do it that way, and we'll determine what we're going to do. So just table it. Don't kill it. Just table it into our next meeting. That gives you time.
very good. If we're ready to move to the next item.
Madam Chair, you at peace?
Yes, at peace.
All right.
Mhm.
Keep going, Miguel.
Okay. Next item is also from,
No, I just
Yeah,
want
go
to know that Long was back, so whenever the schedule permits, I'll just let you know that he's back in.
yes, thank you. We'll finish through these bids and then we'll plug them in there.
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay, so the next item is the mowing bid results. Those came in as well, and I'll defer to Heath to give us a briefing on that.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, the mowing bid is one, and we sent it back out. We had one company, Yellowstone, come in and they gave us a bid, $696,600. Our budgeted amount for this was 600,000, so 96,600 over out the door on this. We took it and reissued it back out again, and to see if there was anybody else. It closed this morning, same exact results. So Yellowstone is our recommendation and our only bidder on this.
Okay. So to that point, 696 versus what we said was a budget. So that was 90,000 over.
Yes, sir. 96,600.
I got it for easy now. $96,000 over. And so how will you make up that shortfall? It's the same topic as the last one. Now are you using an enterprise fund, or what's the source of funding for this? I'm curious.
No, sir, there's not an enterprise fund for this
Okay.
piece. That's strictly landfill.
Okay, that's what I'm just curious. I
It's
wonder.
coming out of our budget. That's what we have approved. What the board approved for us for 2022. 600,000 for that.
I think.
For mowing, that turns into 6 mowing cycles versus the 4 the year before. So, or 3 the year before, excuse me. So we doubled up on it. So it's not, 96,000 over. It's not near as bad as some of the other issues like we just got off of. But yeah, it's
All right. No, thank you for that.
we're close, and I think we're going to get it down cutting to once a month. We had several meetings with Yellowstone about this to this point, and they're doing good work. They're helping us out, and we could also, if needed to be, if later on we could look at dropping a cycle. That's an option with it.
Anything else you want to add to that?
That's it.
Okay. No, thank you. And so to your point, I think in listening to you, I would support Madam Chair. You go, you're $100,000 short or off each, I guess, area, or cut is 100 grand. So, right, you down to perhaps 5. Is that sufficient? Can we make it work with 5? And again, without taking money from somewhere else, you got to cut back your expectations or your goals. Like just as opposed to 6 Madam Chair cuts, which I know that was a desire, but the sign of the time says, okay, you can pull from somewhere else, or you just cut it to fit your budget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're
And
gonna go, but certainly
it's 5.
the
but-
5 cuts. We got to adjust with this inflation. Absolutely, 5 cuts, but that's more than we've had in the past. Typically, we've gone with 3 in the past. Is that right, Deputy County Administrator?
That is,
So,
yes, Madam
We
Chair,
love 6, but I believe we already have one that we just recently
that's
had
correct.
a haircut. So we should,
Mhm.
within another month, we just have to look at that last month, uses what, November?
No, it's September, if I'm not is that correct? Heath, I believe, it typically goes, until September. Is that correct, Heath? Our mowing cycles?
Yeah,
normally
that's
cut off.
correct, depending on when we can put this
Okay.
out. As long as we get this through the board tonight,
Yeah,
then, if not, we'll rotate, go into another 2 weeks, we can put this into June.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, I would suggest that we just move forward with this, with the option of dropping, the one cycle gives us the flexibility that we need. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned it, that's why I came on to tell you, we've had one, cycle already.
Yeah.
That they did for us, for emergency purposes. So we can decide, later on in the year, maybe after the third or fourth cycle, if we're gonna need the final one. Or
Yes,
if we have it in the coffers and we can go from there.
sounds good. Just want to shrink it to 5 at this time. Okay,
Okay.
we just go with 5.
Well, the
Never-
contract itself is for 6. And Heath, you said we have the option of dropping that 5th one, or that we have the option of dropping one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's 6, and it's a unit price, contract, so we can look at dropping 1.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
All right, so is this on the agenda tonight?
No, I'll have to get with Madam Chair afterwards to see if we
Yes.
can bring this to the floor, from the floor.
yes.
Chair. Okay, great.
It's already on the agenda. No, I'm not forcing it. I was just,
No, we need
No,
it.
we need.
It needs,
Yes, sir.
it needs on the agenda.
not, but it needs to be forced.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so
And
we-
if Fred, if you could contact Lisa.
all right, it's a recommendation from this committee that we're supporting this contract with the one route, whatever it's called, reduction. You got to give them some guidance, because based on what it is, I mean, unless we're saying we just want to send it to the full board, do y'all really believe in this contract?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so if you believe it, then give the board what they need by what, let's put a recommendation forth. So Keith is going to be, Miguel, help your peer, his first,
Stone for 5 mowing cycles for whatever the amount that turns out to be, based on the unit price.
Well,
on 5 months. Give the exact number, Director Coward, so we can make this resolution, this thing right, and get in the meeting
Well,
minutes.
Vice Chair, if I may, is it possible that we could make the motion for 6 with the option of
6.
dropping 1
Mhm.
instead of the motion for 5 and adding 1? Because we don't know, we may come to the end of the year, we may have monies in the coffer to cover that last one. I know this is a big initiative for Madam Chair. I would just like to have the flexibility of, if it's clear that we're not going to do that last 6-1, then I understand that. But I would like, without having to come back to the board and bother you all with this, I would like to make the motion for 6, the option of dropping that last one.
Now, see, that obligates us, though. It's how you're saying that right now. And I hear y'all need to figure this out, but we're only committing to what we have, 600 grand. That's what the board gave you. So there is no option. The vendor came on 100 grand above the budget. The executive said they want to do 6. The board gave you enough money for 600,000. The market has come in 100,000. Your aspiration is bigger than what we budgeted based on the macro. So the point is, well, that didn't exist. All you got is this. You got to work within what was appropriated. You said come back, well, you're gonna have to come back. That's all we gave you. To make that 6 one, it's like you're gonna have to come before us. So I'm like, it's how you're saying it. I hear you, but it's like, okay, guys, the board appropriated. That was it. You got to work. So if the pricing is off, well, you got to work within that, or just I'm gonna let y'all figure this out now, because we got to figure this out. But you
The motion for 5. 5 cuts at $580,500. That comes in under the 600,000 that was budgeted for 2022. And that's the only option on the table is the way I'm hearing it, the way you're explaining it, sir. So that would be my motion.
All right, so, all right, one more time for the record. We got a motion and a second. So as a point of clarity, since we're in, clarify what you just said again.
It's, so a motion to go with Yellowstone for the mowing bid, 5 cycles instead of 6 at $580,500 to meet our budget for 2022 of 600,000. Comes in just under.
All right, that was a clarifying for the record. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from any of the members? All right, if there's none, we'll go around the room. You guys will find an order because we got 2 new members, but I'll start with myself. Kelly Robinson, Chair of the Committee, vote yes.
Molly Jackson Jones, Vice Chair of the Committee, yes.
Rick Perry, yes.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, yes.
Gerald Valentin, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Coward, yes.
All right, we got a unanimous vote to give Yellowstone 5 cutting contract with 5 cuts at the price of $585 and some change, according to me. We presented to the full board at our next convenient moment. All right. Next bid. Let's keep going, Miguel. Thank you, everybody on the committee. Miguel, next.
Just for a second, just for me, the chairman of the committee. So, Director, Deputy County Administrator, so you're gonna get releases so we can get it on the agenda. Right? Okay, thank you. All right, I yield back to you, Chairman of the Committee. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Got it. All right.
Okay, next item is the bid on gravel materials, solicitation 22-016. And the gravel materials, Heath, if you want to expand on that, but it looks like Martin Marietta has been deemed the lowest responsive bidder.
Yes, so that's right. And that's our recommendation coming out is Martin Marietta. The other bids have been, there's not a pattern from they're all over the board. And so that's our recommendation is for the 22016 Martin Marietta.
Okay. Right, well, that's his presentation. Any topics, any discussion from anybody else in the committee members, please weigh in.
Yeah, let me just clarify that this particular contract is a unit price contract for materials. So there is no specific dollar value. We just award the contract to the vendor, and the material is purchased as needed throughout the year. The funding for that would be whatever is available within the budget. Is that correct, Keith? It will come out of whatever's been allocated in your budget for those materials.
Is Director Valentin, while he gets over, is that in-house for what he does for in-house, or is this project-based that is on the books?
It's in-house.
It's in-house.
Pure in-house. Sorry, I'm fine.
Did you ask me a question, Miguel? I'm sorry.
No, I was just making a clarification that there is no dollar value to this contract.
It's just
It's
bid
just
that we will all use when we go to use gravel. That's where we'll all use the same vendor.
So this is the only person that bid for the. How do we select them?
There were multiple bidders. I believe there was more than one, but there was a selection committee. Heath, if
There
you
was
wanna speak
two.
to that.
There was two. One of them, the other one was a trucking company. Yeah, it's called GIG Leo LLC. That was the only other bidder.
And what were they gonna do? Have on-demand, just-in-time type of delivery of materials regardless?
That's what they're saying, so yes.
I get it. All right, so this is the recommendation. So is there action needs to be taken, Miguel?
Yeah, we would need a recommendation from the committee to the board to award the gravel materials contract for 2022 to Martin Marietta.
Is that only didn't already tonight, or just for next
No.
week?
It needs to be added to the next meeting. Not
Okay.
tonight.
Not tonight. Great. All right, bring forth the motion, guys. Let's keep it moving.
You made the motion, right? Director?
Yep.
Okay, so moved.
So you made a motion, and say it one more time for clarity, since we got a motion in a second.
It's a motion to award the gravel materials contract for 2022 to Martin Marietta.
You did state that. All right, that was just for clarity. Therefore, the motion in the second stands as is. Any further discussion on this, guys? All right, so if there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor of awarding this contract to Martin Marietta, please do so by indicating yea or nay accordingly. Kelly Robinson, yes.
Ramona Hudson Jones, yes.
Frederick Perry, yes.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, yes.
Miguel Valentin, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Keith Keller, yes.
Sounds good. That's 7-0 unanimous vote to give Martin Marietta the award of this contract for materials. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Director Powell. All right, Director Valentin, let's keep moving.
All right, next item is another bid result, this time landscape maintenance for the I-20 interchanges. And that recommendation is to award it to Russell Landscaping. And the annual amount is $245,000, a little less than that. And Heath, if you want to expand on your budget for that item.
Yes, sir. All right, so the budget was $300,000 for the I-20 maintenance. And we came in at $244,415. They were not the low bidder, but they are the bidder they're the ones that have the ability to do the job we want.
It's what's the difference? What is the difference? Price difference? I heard two different numbers.
244,415 is their bid. And the only other number I said was 300,000, what it was allocated for. Next, you want another price from the?
Yeah, just let's see what was the spread? I mean, this we
Could have been a difference, Heath, of 55,585.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's asking for the other vendors.
Yeah, I just want to.
Oh, the other vendors, okay. I'm sorry.
We have to we not have to. We disclose these things, guys, so that you can start reaching. Well, how did y'all arrive by that? And so it's better that you just offer it in your narrative versus me having that. I'm not trying to expose anything, but just like, okay, hey, we had 3 bids. These are the 3 that came in. Okay, this is why we're going with that. It's your logic line, because it's like, okay, so who is this? And y'all know, but as oversight, I don't know. I'm not there day to day, so I have to ask these questions. So can you give me the number 2 and number 3 person that came in, just for the record. Not saying that we're altering it, but
we got a number. I'm sorry, sir. Outdoor Solutions. And that was the next, and they're cheaper. Problem is it's a lot cheaper, so it doesn't seem feasible. I mean, it's not. And if they can't do the job, then it's going to come back on us, and we're going to have this great new project that everybody's proud of and want to keep in pristine shape. Everybody's going to watch it die and wilter. And I don't, just because they got us on a lower bid, I think they did, but it's not covering the same. It's not apples to apples.
On that lowest bid, then, for the record, do they have the history of working either with the county or someone like Project? I hear you saying we're discounted because we don't believe there, but based on what? They've been running for 17 years, and we're doing this type of thing, and they've got it down to an efficiency, and they've got their own flower shop. I mean, you got to give me a little bit more than just saying that, okay, I don't think they can do it. Based on what?
Based on the proposal, sir, this is the decision we came up with. The committee,
So there's a committee that looked at this, and they just don't think they're worthy of it. All right, that's just.
so the next bidder is half.
Hold on. No, I'm making a point. Is if a vendor or a bidder challenges us, I need to know now before they get here, since when we were unduly discounted. I'm just asking general questions. I'm not challenging it. But again, please, people are watching this, right? This is not, in a vacuum. So I'm trying to be sensitive, like, okay, flow with me, right? So that's all I'm trying to get to. It's like, flow with the questions. The questions are not to challenge. They're more like, okay, guys, come on now, talk to us. It's a committee. You're supposed to talk, but it's not supposed to be, strained. All right, so let's just keep it moving. I'm fine with this. I heard what I had to hear. I made my point. So is there, and thank you for that. You gave us why we didn't go with the lowest bidder. Think about it. We're supposed to go with the lowest bidder. And we have to explain sometimes why we didn't go with the lowest bidder, not just because the committee. Well, who is the committee? Who did this? That's what they mean by shadow government. That means that okay, it's too dark, guys. Don't nobody know what you just said. And that's why we have to have an open government. You have to talk. So, all right, we got this. I think we're good for right now. Let's move on to, so Miguel, can we get another motion to go ahead and move this one forward? So Madam Chair can get her flowers, her landscaping along I-20 done before we get too hot. Can we move forward?
Yes, let me frame the motion. The committee recommends to the full board that we award a contract to Russell Landscaping in the amount of $244,410 for the landscaping at I-20 interchange.
Got it. You heard the motion. Can we get a second?
Second.
Get a motion and a second. Any further discussion? As one clarity, this will not be on tonight's, but it'll be at the next board commission meeting sometime in the month of June. Is that accurate?
Let me, if we could pause this for a second. I know you probably have some
No, you're
questions. Any particular reason why it's not coming before the board tonight? The flowers definitely need water. I don't want our products to die. We're already behind. So is it any particular reason why not? Mr. Valentine, I can squeeze it on there.
Yeah, the timing of when the bids were received, and it had to do with when they could go on the agenda. So
okay, I'll wait if that's okay. I'll pray for rain. Okay, I'll yield back to you, Chairman of the committee.
So when we hear, Madam Chair, you next meeting, right?
Yes.
Not tonight. I'm just thinking about tonight. If it ain't tonight, we just got to keep moving. So
sounds like a timing issue. I don't want to violate anything. So I hear you. Okay.
We'll address that later on. I recognize the Transportation Committee. Again, our Finance Committee, some committees come after our work sessions, and it's just timing. I get it, but you never want to shotgun the board, right? Avoid unless it's really urgent, it's really exigent. We get it, but you don't want to get into that practice of shotgunning things for committee sit. Like, no, guys, don't do them that way. Give them a chance to sort of reflect on it and, respect the will of the board. So, all right, we got the motion in a second, guys. Any further discussion? All right, there's nothing else. I'm going to go ahead and call a question. All in favor of awarding this contract as so stated, do so by indicating yes or no. Kelly Robinson says yes.
Mona Jackson Jones, yes.
Frederick Perry, yes.
Gallard, yes.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, yes.
Miguel Valentine, yes.
That was 6. Did I miss somebody?
Ron Roberts, yes.
Go, I'm counting. Thank you. We got a 7-0 unanimous vote to award the contracts as so stated. We'll see it come before the full board of commissioners at our next meeting in sometime in June. All right, Director Valentin, anything else?
Not as it relates to bids at this time, but we do have Todd Long back on the line. I believe he's on the line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he is.
Yes, I see.
And so this would be an opportunity to allow him to continue his presentation, if that's the will of the committee.
I respect his time and we appreciate you being here. I'm sure he heard our narrative, which is, again, this is all related. It's germane.
Yeah.
I'll just pick back up, Todd, where you are. It's all good, and we just appreciate your time and your flexibility. So go right ahead. You have the floor. Continue on.
Well, it actually was partly, apologize for that happening. I'm actually at Georgia DOT in the boardroom where all the Wi-Fi should be better than it was, but it just dropped me. And David was able to tell me exactly where I was. But it's kind of ironic that your last hour really has been discussing the need for more funds and trying to figure out how you pay for things that cost more than you have. And T-SPOS will come in handy for that. In fact, there are 108 counties that have a transportation sales tax, whether through the TIA, the regional tax, or the single county. And I'm not talking to a single one of them that said they regret having it. So just so you know that. But what I'll do is I want to go continue the PowerPoint we're in. And in fact, I'm going to start at the end and do 3 or 4 slides and let it wrap up. But this is, you see this slide on the page here, the map, everybody sees that? Good?
Yep.
Okay, this is the slide of the counties that have either single county T-SPOS in blue or the regional sales tax in green. And as you can see, it's permeated the whole state, and it's like 108 total counties that have some form of transportation funding. All of them have a full penny except for Fulton County, which I explained, I think, before. But it tells you it's pretty widespread. Now, there's a number of counties that have tried and failed, including Coney, Walton, Spalding, and several others tried. Several times Spalding just passed it. But so the counties that have really struggled to pass it have been some of the donut counties around Metro Atlanta area, just so you know that going in. But before I left off, I was on this slide right here, and I was talking about the fact that this money can be used for capital projects and accompanying infrastructure and services necessary to maintain those facilities. So some counties have interpreted that to mean buying motor graders for dirt roads. You don't have a lot of dirt roads in Douglas County. You've got a few, but it really kind of sets the bar out there to look at a little bit more than just capital, which a lot of counties have really appreciated, to be honest with you. There are a number of exemptions from regular SPLOST money, but they have 6 additional exemptions, which are quite unusual, some of them. You would think that the sale and use of fuel would not be exempt from a tax like this, but it is. Sale of use for off-road vehicles, sale of use for jet fuel, fuel that's used to propel cars is exempt. So it's kind of a weird set of exemptions. And you know how that process works during the sausage making process during the General Assembly. All those exemptions were put in. But the collections and allocation of funds are really important. The collections will start 80 days following the quarter that is voted on. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. If it's voted on November, the collections will begin April 1st the following year. It does require that 1% of the funds be withheld back to the state revenue commissioner and paid into the treasury in order to administer the programs. It lasts 5 years, like I mentioned that before, but it's got 2 little stipulations. It's the final day of the maximum period of 5 years, or at the end of the calendar quarter, that the State Revenue Commission determines that the tax raise was sufficient to provide the funds necessary and identified in the very beginning. So in other words, when you're doing your IGA, you identify how much revenue you think it will generate. So the trick to that is obviously estimate high as far as the revenue. If for referendums this November, which you guys are probably not in that ballpark yet, but as you think through this future years, it does allow money, the collection of money to be changed a little bit. The full amount can be collected. That was a change in the bill, that first bullet. But you also have to get an IGA. That didn't change. And then the last bullet here is of importance if you want to do a spring election. Obviously, there are a few counties that are going for a vote next week. So be watching that and see that map changes according to people voting on that. You can use T-SPOS funds to do general obligation debt financing on projects. Most counties have opted not to do that, but some counties have held a bond referendum in conjunction with a T-SPOS referendum. And they've also, some of them have even used it to interpret that as lease purchase agreements on road equipment. This is the question that you would get on a ballot. Quite simple, but it just basically lays out, there's no list of projects on the ballot. It's just going to be this first ballot question right here. Shall the percent of the sales tax be used in a special district consisting of, in this case, Douglas County for a period not to exceed 5 years and raising the estimated amount of blank. So that's why you got to put the dollar amount in that you think it's going to raise. And Department of Revenue and Georgia State University, of all places, they can help you with that revenue projections. They've done this enough now to know what these raise through all the exemptions, because it's going to be a little bit tricky. You can't just look at SPLOST, you can't look at eSPLOST. It gives you a general idea, but it doesn't tell you exactly the number you raise because the exemptions are different. And then upcoming elections, it's got some weird anomalies in there. For odd number of years, you can do it on these dates. For even number of years, you can do it on these time frames. So I don't want to get into those details until you decide to get it, but there are anomalies in what year you can push this forward. And like I said before, the single counties are blues here. And I guess you might ask, well, why don't we go for the regional tax again? I want to kind of put that to bed. In Atlanta, you're part of the ARC. You were part of the failed attempt of the regional sales tax back in 2012. So if one county has a single county sales tax in your region, then you are not allowed to go for a regional sales tax. So currently, going back to the map, guess who has a sales tax in your Henry County and Fulton. So as long as they have a single county T-SPLOST, the ARC region cannot go for a regional tax. All right. And Fulton just revoted theirs for another 10 years, and Henry voted not too longer, another 5 years. And Henry was, I guess, got 4 more years. So until those expire, the region can go back out as a region again. Now, I don't know that you'll ever see a regional sales tax attempted again, but there are some advantages. And the folks in South Georgia have enjoyed the regional sales tax. But those are some of the differences. The regional sales tax does have some impact on your LMIG matches. You were talking about LMIG earlier, Mr. Robertson, and the match on your LMIG is only 10% if you pass a regional sales tax.
Want you to take down
And
the code
honestly,
alert
I'll be honest with you, that's a non-factor because y'all spend far more than the 30% match on that on your regular resurfacing projects in the county anyway. So y'all would never have a problem with that issue. In fact, Terry Gable and I wrote a lot of that language about the match on LMIG back when we were in Georgia.
I should have put that in there too.
So
you can also
I'll conclude with that. I know
website.
I've flown through some of the last slides, but I was trying to
Click on
save your
the
time here late in the afternoon. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for that information. Very educational, very timely. I mean, as you know, so again, it was all about, look, we need to get you in front of us as soon as possible to help further refine our understanding of what we're looking at. So to the committee members, again, there's no action here. This is almost like a public service announcement and you know, an education 101. Any thoughts, comments? Madam Chair, you okay? From what you're listening to, again, there's no action, just more education.
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Long, for coming in to present today. Certainly is educational and is beneficial to me at this time also, particularly since Douglas County has never embarked upon a T-SPLOST in our lifetime. So this is exciting just to see what type of results could be yielded from this funding if ever we embark upon the opportunity. So really you provided a breadth and wealth of knowledge in terms of what to expect if a piece comes forward and what our citizens could expect. And this program, or should I say this committee, meeting is being advertised across the county. So this is good information for all our citizens to look at and to consider going forward if it ever comes to fruition for Douglas County.
And Tom, go ahead, guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had one question to Madam Chair's point. Again, as we get into this, we've been successful, at least in my tenure, two SPLOS, but this more recent one, which is more diversified versus a single item, back in 2009, this is pretty spread, and the citizens have seen success. And we recognize that we in a state of good prepared is not in a state of good prepared. So we recognize we got a list. We just need the funding. We've shown 5 years of successful track record. My question, now we get the SPLOS for a T-SPLOS. Are T-SPLOS allowed to do trails? Are trails part of the road infrastructure? Blue trails, green trails, bike trails, or is it just hardcore concrete asphalt?
Yeah. No, so let's talk about that for a second. For years, there's been an understanding, and I think it's pretty clear in the law, that gas tax money is for roads and bridges only. But SPLOS money, there's been a little bit of difference in thought process. Obviously, regular SPLOS money can be used for a lot of things. If you look at this, though, this clearly said this is code section. So look at A, acquisition of rights of way for roads, street, bridges, sidewalks, and bicycle paths. All right. So as you think through this, there's been a lot of discussion about what is a bicycle path, what is a sidewalk, and for the most part, lawyers and others have interpreted that. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I'd like to play one, like we all do. But there have been a lot of paths built because they use the word. See how word they use in the code, path. When you build bicycle lanes on state routes, that's clearly you can do that with state gas tax money. But a bicycle path is a path. So there's a lot of thought that you can build just like you're talking about.
So you can, and again, I'm not looking for anything. It's just points of clarity, because the board does have to have a consideration that it plans to take up here soon. What is our next 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
This SPLOS ends 1 year from now. It's over. So how will we maintain this? How do we address the state of good prepared on a laundry list that's this long? And you know you can't fund it out of your checking account. So there's a conversation. The question is, how much do we do? Do you do a SPLOS? Or do you do, which obviously is going to get spread across everything else, public safety, parks and rec, et cetera, to general admin? Or do you now reconcentrate it down in a single SPLOS, whether it's fractured or not? That's a mature conversation that we have to have as leadership. We cannot be afraid. It cannot be a political conversation. What is in the best interest based on the needs of the public that we have aggregated over the past 5 years? Where's the current needs analysis tells us what needs to get done, and how will we go fund that? And again, it's a conversation that needs to be inclusive of the public. Weigh in, public. How much do you want us to go do over the next 5 or whatever 6 years? And if we tag a T-SPLOS on it, what does that mean? What are the impacts of it? Have the conversation. Yeah, they want these subdivisions. We'll tell them that it's going to cost this. But it's a conversation. Todd, we can't belabor this. We just need you did perfectly what we need you to do. Be that third party, come here and insert this at a perfect time. There's no more that we need to say anymore beyond this. Let's go for right now, okay?
Okay.
All right, Madam Chair, are we okay for right now?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay. We're good for right now. Thank you. All right, Miguel, let's keep going. Let's get back on track with that and get to this agenda.
Yes, as Todd powers down his presentation, the next item on the agenda is on the Lee Road widening project. And Lee Road widening project, as you know, is under construction. And we do have a change order. It is in the amount of $8,735, and that is related to some additional items that are needed to protect from soil erosion. So some items that we had estimated would be in certain locations along the project. Now we need some more of those. Again, it's relative to the almost $20 million cost of the project. Very minor, but of course, as you know, it's early in the season. But yeah, we need a recommendation from the committee to the full board to award this change, to approve the change order in the amount of $8,735 on the contract, on the Lee Road project contract.
Yeah, went down Lee Road today. I understand where we are. All right, let's go ahead. Can we get, is that your motion? You were framing it. Is that your motion?
That is the motion with this consideration that the adjustment is with the CMES Inc. contract on Lee Road.
And the amount we have within our current budget?
In the current, the contract amount is standing at $19,696. We have sufficient budget, well in excess of that. Of course, we have other items other than construction to expend those funds on, but there is ample funding in our allocated to the project to cover them.
All right, so then you had the motion to make the project change order for CMES Inc. in 8,000. What was it, Miguel?
$8,735.
$8,735. Right. I made the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this matter? If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question around by 7 members of the voting committee. Kelly Robinson, vote yes.
Owner Jackson Jones, yes.
Secretary, yes.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, yes.
Miguel Valentin, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Keith Cowart, yes.
All right, that's
Okay, thank you. Thank you very
no
much.
unanimous vote. The motion passes to go forward to the full board of commissioners. All right, keep going.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is just an update on the Highway 5 Douglas Boulevard Turn Lane project. As we mentioned the last time, we need an intergovernmental agreement with the city. There's one that's been put together that's now in legal. They're coordinating with the city for that to extend the time of that contract, and that'll be coming up probably at the next commission meeting if we get all the language finalized. That was just an update on that.
We discussed this yesterday during David Good and Terry's presentation about the SPOS didn't come up, so we're good, right? We got committee to do. All right, keep going.
Next item is another update on the Stewart Mill and Reynolds intersection project. It's been advertised for bid. The bids on that project are due June 15th. So we will have at the next commission, the next committee meeting, let me see what that date is. That is coming up on June 21st. So we will have the results of that bid for our next meeting. Again, just an update on the project there. The next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the schedule of the committee. It had initially been set early on in the year, as we typically do, and it tracks pretty much the meeting schedule of the Board of Commissioners. There was a change in the December meeting for the BOC, moving it from December 20th to December 13th. And so my recommendation would be that we also move the committee meeting from the 20th to December 13th.
Madam Chair, just brings up a good point, but shouldn't all committees move automatically when we do something that is at the board level, that everything has to align with it, versus us individually I'm missing something here. Shouldn't everything shift when we go out with these blanket? Here's all our committees. Here's all of our board meetings. Here's all our work sessions. Don't they all go together, even when we make adjustments? I'm just asking.
You're on mute, Madam Chair.
Oh,
I believe this is just a special request. The other ones don't always shift. I'm just not sure if this is something special, but
it was special. It just because this is a standing committee. Remember, they're select and they're standing.
right.
And this is what we call one of the big committees. So if we need to make it, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, we normally publish the meeting dates at the beginning of the year.
Right.
Yes, please.
And we track the Board of Commissioners meeting dates, but we issue a separate committee calendar. When the BOC changed the date, we have to, as a committee, change ours to correspond. So
Right.
that's
It
the
should-
request.
Okay.
Don't have to, but duly noted you can. We're independent in that we can call the meetings anytime. But duly noted. Let's go ahead and make the adjustments. So Miguel, put your motion on the table and make sure that when it's time to put out that, if you want to adjust now or at the time of December coming up, let's go ahead and knock this out.
Okay. I make a motion that that the committee change the meeting, the December meeting, to December 13th at 2 p.m. That's my motion.
I got a motion second, December 13th, 2022 at 2 p.m. All right, to all committee members, we need all of you to weigh in. You heard the motion, and then what's the second? I'm going to call the question. If you all agree, you can say yes or no, or that meeting and that meeting only to be realigned with the Board of Commissioners meeting for our Transportation Committee. So Kelly Robinson, vote yes.
Mona Jackson Jones, yes.
Frederick Terry, yes.
Mr. Stanley, yes.
Miguel Valentin, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Keith Cowart, yes.
All right, 7-0 unanimous vote by the newly seated Transportation Committee of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Our meeting has now been revised in the month of December 2022. All right, Miguel, anything else?
No, that is the last item that we have to discuss today. So the agenda has been fulfilled.
All right, thank you all for being here. Thank you to the new members. And Miguel, let's work together to ensure that, not that it doesn't do it by default, but I want to make sure that both work, not only just transportation, but transit and public works has a special place on our agenda that they can bring up stuff, not to talk, just be talking or just to run, but I want to make sure that it's all acknowledged, and we appreciate you guys' contributions here. Madam Chair, are you okay with that?
Mm-hmm. I am.
Thank you so much. So we'll work through that. But Miguel, the order is fine as is, but we just want to make sure we highlight and just seeing that they, sometimes you have to acknowledge the areas, and I appreciate you guys and you guys' ascension and your leadership. Deputy, Madam AC, are you guys okay before I get up out of here?
We're fine.
Okay. Director Roberts and Director Power, any comments from you guys as new members?
Thank you for letting us aboard. Look forward to the next one.
Hey.
Ditto, not there. Appreciate it.
All right, great. And David Good, and to all of our vendors, Todd, and everybody else who participated, and Danielle, thank you guys so much. To the public of Douglas County, my name is Kelly Robinson, Chair of the Committee of Transportation for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Let this Transportation Committee stand adjourned. Thanks, guys.